Welcome back to On the Money. I'm Rob Herdig. I'm here with my good friend Brian Quaranta. Brian, how we doing?
Rob, how are you? Good to see you as always.
Man, always good to see you. Love being here. Love talking about this stuff with you. I know it's vitally important.
Yeah, well, Social Security is vitally important.
Yeah, so the funny thing, you said Social Security. For some people, that's like a dirty word, right? They hear Social Security and they think it's for who?
You have people without money.
But you and I are only talking about one group of people here.
Yeah, the people with money need to understand how to do Social Security because they are the ones that can benefit the most from some of the maximization strategies.
They also have the most to lose by not getting it right.
Yes.
The guys that don't have any money, that haven't saved, they've got nothing to lose,
They've
right?
got nothing to lose.
And we're not talking to them. If you want to plan, if you're a guy that hasn't saved for retirement and you want to plan with Social Security, tell them what it is.
Just work as long as you can.
Save
work
as much
as long
as
you can and delay, and save as much as
So
you
we've
can.
gotten that part out of the way.
Yeah.
People, if you don't have any money, we're not talking to you. If you have other assets, we actually are.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying if you don't have money, we don't want to talk to you because we do want to help you.
It's just as far as the Social Security maximization goes, they've taken so many of the strategies away that the only way you can really maximize it is actually to delay and utilize other assets.
That's actually a really good segue into the next point here, Brian, because a lot of people say, what do I care? Social Security hasn't changed. But it has changed multiple times.
Oh, multiple times. Yeah, I mean, it's changed in what, 83, right?
Yeah.
Reagan first taxed it in 83. It was supposed to not be taxed. Roosevelt said it wouldn't be taxed, right?
Yeah.
He said, as long as I'm alive, it'll never be taxed.
He didn't want it to ever be taxed, so it was his intent, right?
Yes. So 83, it got taxed, right? Yep. And then Clinton taxed it again, in the 90s. And so now we've got 50% all the way up to 85% of the Social Security becoming taxable.
And not only that, in 2015 with the Bipartisan Budget Act, they voted to take all your filing strategies away.
Right. And that was a big one. They did that at night when nobody was watching.
So it was almost like an increase in taxation on the benefit or a reduction of benefit, right? Now they're talking about a big change in 10 to 15 years, right? Because they're worried about it being insolvent.
Yeah, well, that's why we created the Retirement Readiness Report and the Social Security Maximization Report, because people need to know how this all fits into the puzzle for the retirement planning, because it takes into account everything, Rob.
Yeah.
You can't just isolate out this as, let me go to Social Security's website, let me figure out my calculation and figure out my delaying. There's so many other pieces of the puzzle, including how do you utilize your other assets, because you got 85% of the people today retiring without pensions, and they're retiring with 401ks, which replace the pensions. So now, how do you work that into a strategy that actually helps you maximize your Social Security?
So I was thinking about the people that are retiring today, and the biggest percentage of retirement or of society that's ever retired in the United States is retiring now, right?
Right.
The boomer generation.
Yeah.
And there's so many moving pieces, and the normal person's retired for 18 years, the average person. And that average person maybe sees one downturn market, two during that 18-year period.
Yep.
What are we facing right now?
Well, it's the worst time we've ever seen in history. We got rising interest rates, right? We've got volatile markets.
Yeah.
It's a very scary time. The worst time to start taking money out of your retirement accounts, by the way, is when the market's going down.
Right.
So you got to be very careful in the way that you approach retirement, or even if you're in retirement, you got to rethink about how you might be taking income.
Right.
Because if you're taking income from a portfolio that's invested in the market and you're down right now, you could actually be increasing the probability of yourself running out of money sooner than later.
Right. If you're taking from a portfolio that you have massive gains on too, there's tax consequences for that.
That's right.
There's things that people aren't looking at, and all this stuff works together. These things are not independent; they're interdependent, right?
That's right. That's right. And and I'll tell you, the reason why people don't really take Social Security serious is because when they talk to everybody, they say delay, right? Well, that's not an answer. Delaying is not an answer. We really have to figure this out mathematically, and this is why we developed the Social Security Maximization Report along with the Retirement Readiness Review, because people need to understand how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together so they can get a report laid out in front of them and figure out, okay, if I choose option A, B, or C, this is going to be the better approach. And the reality is everybody's situation is so different because the pension's gone away, and everybody has different amounts in their 401ks. Everybody's got a different health report, right? So not everybody is super healthy going into retirement either, and that plays a big role in it.
No, you're absolutely right. Has there ever been a more advantageous time in history to really put together a comprehensive retirement plan where you look at everything? You look at the Social Security Maximization Report, you look at your streams of income, you look at your tax efficiency. Tax code's on our side right now, right?
Yeah, the tax code's the lowest it's ever been. Think about how much they could be missing out on as far as additional income they could be getting, right? Or how much they could potentially lose in taxes by not getting this right.
So, what's interesting? When people look at Social Security, they only look at what I would lose in just my Social Security benefit by not filing at the right time.
Right.
But it's so much bigger than that.
It's so much bigger. How much more could you lose by having to take money out of your accounts too early? How much could you lose by not getting the tax strategy right and having to overpay in tax? taxes. Remember, up to 85% of the
Yeah.
Social Security benefit could become taxable. And so all of these things take into account. And the thing is that if you're going to maximize, the first thing you have to do is not lose.
Right. Well, what if your financial advisor, some professional or some guy at work told you to wait as long as you can to file, and meanwhile you're spending all your assets down at the same time? And what if you pass away right after that?
Right.
You've used all your assets.
Yes.
You've used none of their money, and you have nothing left for your children or your spouse.
That's right. And you've spent down your entire life savings that you spent the last 35, 40 years accumulating, sacrificing, not going on vacations, not spending time building memories with your family. Right now, if you get your Social Security and your income strategy right from your portfolio, this is where we could pay less in taxes. We could have more cash flow on a monthly basis to do the things we want to do to create more memories. Think about that. How many people out there are not creating the memories that they want to be with their families because they're afraid to spend their money because nobody's ever taught them how to properly take what they've accumulated over the course of their 35, 40 years worth of working, along with Social Security, and create a cash flow plan that actually maximizes the amount of money they get on a monthly basis.
Hey, I don't know if you want to tell this story or not, but you told me a story earlier about an 83-year-old who was scared to spend his money. Do you remember that?
I do.
Tell the story. I mean, I think it's impactful.
He came in, I was talking to him about his RMDs and how much he was going to have to pay in taxes, and he had over $3 million, and he started crying. And he said, you know, Brian, he says, this is a shame because I never spent any of this money. I never did anything because I was scared to spend it. I didn't know if I was going to run out or not. And now I'm finding out that 40% of my money is going to have to go to the IRS when I could have spent that money creating memories with my families, doing the things that I wanted to do.
It's terrible. So don't have fear of loss or fear of missing out. Have a plan and thrive. There's a way to do it, right?
Well, people are missing out. That's the thing. And they need to get their head out of the sand because they are missing out on figuring out what are the best strategies. And it's because nobody's ever taken the time to mathematically quantify it for them and show them an approach that actually gets them more than what they could get if they try to do it on their own. You ever try to go to Social Security and do an analysis on their calculator?
And I'm in the business.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's a lot of parameters there.
Yeah, and you and I work with financial advisors all over the country, and it's very difficult. They tell us all the time that people come in and they're super confused on what to do. And most of the big box retail brokerage firms just tell them, oh, just delay it. Just delay it for as long as you can.
Because it's how they get paid. They're not worried about your plan.
They're
worried about their
if
plan.
you tell someone to delay, Social Security, right? I mean, or delay taking their own money, right? That could potentially mean that, that what happens with these big box firms is they manage their money for so long they think it's actually theirs, right?
That's right. Hey, actually, I think that we're going to break right now and tell people what they can do. How can they prevent this all from happening? You have to look at everything. You can't just look at one thing.
Folks, the Retirement Readiness Kit, I mean, it's really the best thing you could possibly get. Call 1-888-382-1298. Scan the QR code down at the bottom. Get the Retirement Readiness Kit along with the Social Security Maximization Report.
Call 888-382-1298 to receive your complimentary Retirement Readiness Review and Social Security Maximization Report. Get the most from your Social Security payments. Find the strategy that maximizes your Social Security benefit and preserves the assets you've saved for retirement. Social Security seems easy, right? The question is, should you take it now or later? There are numerous ways to file for Social Security. The decisions you make can also affect how much you pay in taxes. You've paid into Social Security for decades. Now, get the most out of your Social Security benefit. Call Brian and his team, 888-382-1298 for your complimentary Retirement Readiness Review and Social Security Maximization Report. Now you need to build that into a retirement income plan with all your assets. Call Brian and his team right now, 888-382-1298 to receive your complimentary Retirement Readiness Review and Social Security Maximization Report, or use the QR code on the screen to schedule your appointment today.
Welcome to On the Money. I'm Rob Hertig, back again with Brian Quaranta. Brian, what's going on?
Rob, good to see you as always.
It is always fun to see you. We talk about really important stuff that's impactful, stuff that people need to pay attention to.
Like volatility.
Like volatility.
It's bad right now.
Well, it depends on who you're listening to.
That's true. If you're listening to some of the talking heads, they might think it's not a bad thing.
Or your financial advisor that doesn't truly understand risk and what's appropriate for people at certain stages in life, right?
You mean the ones that are being told, don't worry about it, hang in there, you're in it for the long haul, it's just a paper loss.
It'll come back.
Those emotional, those statements that are designed to control emotions.
What if somebody's financial advisor, and they did get that type of advice during the lost decade?
I saw those people get that advice. I met those people.
It's right when you got into the business.
Yes. I mean, those people had to go back to work. Some of them had to come out of retirement because somebody got paid to convince them that it was a good idea to take risk with their money.
The funny thing is, you've told me these stories that you came into the business and you didn't put these people in those plans. You inherited clients and were past opportunities that were people that other advisors didn't want to talk to.
The first thing you learn when you get into the financial industry, the first thing they teach you at the big box firms is that when people are concerned about risk, you let them know not to worry about anything, that everything will be all right. They have to remember that it's a long-term investment. Well, that might make sense if you're 25 years old, 35 years old, even 45 years old. But when you start getting in that retirement red zone, volatility makes a big difference. And you better have some active management to be controlling that, because a loss can hurt you at that point in your life. And losses do hurt you more than gains help you once you get into that retirement red zone.
What was that stat you told me the other day? The worst time to retire is when?
In an up market, at the top of a bull market. If you look at the statistics, you have a higher probability of running out of money if you retire at the top of a bull market, because you have a higher probability that when you're going to start pulling money out of your accounts, that the market might be going down. And that's what's happened in the first part of 2022. So think about the people that retired at the end of 2021 or even at the end of 2020, and now they're going right into this bear market potentially, and they're pulling money out of their portfolios. And why are they pulling money out of their portfolios? Because 85% of them retiring do not have a pension.
So the funny thing is, every time we have a market downturn, at least a substantial one, we always try to come up with ways to fix the problems of the past, right? And what have we seen? We've seen 60-40 portfolio's.
Right.
How's the 60-40 portfolio doing right now?
Yeah, how about the target date funds?
Right, exactly.
Right, I had, for those of you that don't know, the target date funds, they were implemented back after the 2007-2008 crisis, because employees sued their employers because they had lost so much money in their 401ks, that Wall Street's answer to solving that problem, rather than giving them this big long list of investments to choose from, they said, hey, if you're going to be retiring in 2025, choose the Retirement 2025 fund. If you're going to be retiring in 2030, choose the 2030 fund. Now, I don't know about you, and I know you talk to advisors all over the country, but I've talked to people, and I had a gentleman come in the other day to my office with a 2025 target date fund down almost 20%.
Wow.
Right? And this guy's 3 years out from retirement.
And this is supposed to be the foolproof way.
This is supposed to be a portfolio that gets more conservative. How about we had a client come in, or not a client, but an individual that came in, 2022 target date fund down 24%. Why? Because bonds have been hit so hard with the rising interest rates.
You look at long-term bond portfolios down anywhere from 8% to almost 20%. And these are big name bond portfolios. These aren't just obscure names that we don't know. They're the big names, and I won't say them because I don't want anybody calling my compliance department telling me.
Well, listen, there's an ETF out there with a 20-year treasury that's down almost 20%. I mean, if someone told you, if you wanted to protect money, that a good place to do that would be probably a treasury bond, wouldn't you think that a 20-year treasury bond would be relatively conservative?
I mean, it blows my mind, Brian. We have to pay attention to who's giving the advice.
Yeah.
Right? Who's giving the advice? How are they being compensated?
And how risk is being quantified.
Right. And how is risk being quantified, right?
Right.
And that's a huge problem in our industry. Tell them why.
Well, because most people understand risk as conservative, moderately conservative, moderately aggressive, or even balanced, right? Those are the words that we've given to risk.
But what person can be put in those boxes?
Well, nobody can, because everybody's risk profile is different, but it's not, those terms are not actually quantifying the risk.
Right.
What does moderately conservative mean? Because I've seen people come in with moderately conservative portfolios that are down, 25%. Well, I thought that was supposed to be moderately conservative. We want to quantify risk in the form of a number, meaning I think about it like a speed limit sign, right? If you're driving at 10 miles an hour versus 70 miles an hour and you get in an accident, there's going to be a lot more damage at 70 miles an hour than there going to be at 10 miles an hour. And that's what our risk analysis report can do. And our retirement readiness report and our risk analysis report will show people exactly how much risk they're taking, how much their portfolio could lose if the markets continue to go down.
Right.
But more importantly, how to make their portfolio more efficient so that when the market does go up, they're potentially maximizing the gain on the way up also.
So it's almost a bit predatory, the way that we define risk, the way that we design products, 5-star ratings, for instance. We talked about that a little bit ago, right?
Yeah.
We talked about
the
performance.
Morningstar 5-star ratings, right? Yeah.
The 1-stars outperform the 5-stars.
Right. Why is that?
So why is it a 5-star?
Right.
But people have confidence in that, and all they know is, hey, it's got a 5-star rating, Brian.
Yeah. You ever eat at a 5-star restaurant and it really wasn't that good?
A few times.
We all have.
Yeah. Just not my type of stuff.
I've eaten at a 1-star restaurant and think, why is this 1-star?
Right.
Because this is really good food. So, how are they quantifying those star ratings? Nobody knows. There's probably some mathematical algorithm that goes into it, but it doesn't seem to make sense on a year-to-year basis when you look at returns versus reward.
It has nothing to do with performance.
That's right.
Unless you flip it on its head.
Yeah. But you know, the whole idea of the target date fund was to create an easy button, right?
Right.
And we know this, easy buttons only work during easy times.
Right.
Right? And times are pretty difficult right now.
You think about anything in life that's worth working for.
Yep.
Where is there an easy button?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
It does not exist.
That's right.
There's no hands off. There's no set it and forget it approach. So what does somebody do?
Yeah,
How do you know? There's so many pieces here because we're not just talking. You know, we talked about Social Security. We talked about taxes. Right now, we're talking about everything.
Yeah. So I had an uncle who had a garden, okay, and he made these beautiful gardens every year: tomatoes, squashes, cucumbers, you name it, peppers, and big plants everywhere. And he would harvest it. Well, one summer he got really, really sick, and he planted that garden. It took months for that garden to grow. Well, do you know how you harvest a garden at the end of the year, right? To get all of your fruits?
Sure.
Have you ever seen what happens to a garden when you don't harvest it?
It dies.
It just dies.
Yeah.
Your money's no different. Once it fruits, you have to harvest it, and you got to be able to position it and protect it in ways that's going to get you through your retirement years and a way that's going to absorb volatility. Rolling the dice in the market is not a way to handle volatility. There's much better ways, and this is why I want folks to have this retirement readiness review and the risk report that we're going to put together for you. It is going to tell you, you know, what type of risk that you're taking. If the markets go down, how much more you could potentially lose. It's going to show you by making some changes. A lot of people think that when the market's down that you shouldn't sell or get out. The reality is changing things up sometimes can work to your benefit. Something called tax loss harvesting, where if you were to sell off assets right now, you could actually benefit from the volatility by having future tax write-offs on losses that you've taken. But also making changes, you know, getting rid of a losing stock for a better stock is a good thing in volatile market times. Getting on a better horse is basically essentially what you're doing when you're making a change. You're not getting out of the market and locking in the losses. You're just changing the vehicle that you're in, and that makes a big difference. And this retirement readiness review and the risk report will uncover a lot of these opportunities for you. All you have to do is call 1-888-382-1298 or scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen.
Call 888-382-1298 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Why take unnecessary risk when you don't have to? At 65 years old, would you drive to the grocery store at 100 miles per hour if 40 miles per hour would get you there safely? When nearing retirement, are you still driving your investment accounts like you're in your 30s or 40s? Have you changed your investment election since you first chose them in your retirement accounts at work? Call Brian and his team at 888-382-1298 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Do you know exactly how much risk you are taking in your investment accounts? Now that you've accumulated a nest egg for retirement, you want to be certain the risk you're taking in those investments matches your goals and objectives. Call Brian and his team, 888-382-1298 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report, or use the QR code below to begin scheduling your appointment. You may not have time to recover from taking too much risk.
Welcome to On the Money with Secure Money. I'm Rob Herdig. Brian,
Rob, good to see you. I know we're talking about legacy planning today, huh? It's a big topic.
It is. It is a big topic, but I think people think about it incorrectly, or maybe they think about it in the wrong order, right?
Yeah.
People think about what do I want to do with my money once I'm gone,
right?
But they don't think about what comes first, and does my current plan get me to and through retirement?
Well,
right?
It's a great point, because if you think about how we get to estate planning, it all starts with the retirement plan itself, because what people don't realize is that the actual most important document they own is something called their beneficiary document.
Right.
And that beneficiary document comes on IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, life insurance policies. And the way the law works is it says that document trumps every other document out there, including your will, your trust, all of that stuff.
You know what's a good example of that? Red Fox. Everybody knows who Red Fox is,
Yeah.
comedian Sanford and Son.
Yep.
When he passed away, which I guess it really wasn't all that long ago,
right,
within the last 10 years probably, he'd been married a number of times throughout his life.
Right.
And his money, what was left from his life insurance, went to his ex-wife 2 times removed.
Yes,
I
right.
mean, that's just a quick example of incorrect legacy planning, or legacy planning that's never been updated, right?
How many people out there are being disinherited because of a wrong beneficiary form?
I've heard about the ex-wife story a multitude of times.
Multitude of times. I mean, I've met these people, right? And this is just in Western Pennsylvania. Think about what's going on nationwide.
Right.
And the courts have said that the beneficiary document will trump everything. So if you don't change it, or you change it to the wrong person, I hate to tell you, it doesn't matter what your will or trust says, you're going to have problems where you want that money to go.
We've talked about Prince's estate too, and he really didn't leave his intentions, right? And now they're saying his $500 million estate is going to be eroded by 50%. That's $250 million, just because he didn't have a plan on the front side. And I think there's some
Not only that, but think about how long he's been gone.
Oh, is it 10 years now?
I mean, it's been quite a while since he's passed.
It's been a long time.
I mean, and he's still caught up in the courts at this point.
So you're not just losing out to probate, you're also losing because you're missing out on time value of money.
Time value of money, right.
It's crazy. And everybody in the audience is probably saying, hey, they're talking about Prince and Red Fox. We're just normal people. That doesn't apply to us, right? Wrong.
Well, the normal people are the ones that get hurt the most.
Right. They make the same estate planning mistakes,
yes,
right?
The average person is who gets hurt the most because they're actually making bigger mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not reviewing these things. They're not taking inventory of where their current retirement plans are at and their strategies and their beneficiary documents, and they're not tying it together into the overall estate planning. And there's a lot that you can do on the retirement planning side, especially when it comes from a tax planning perspective, to eliminate taxation at death and go from taxable accounts to tax-free accounts that will pass on tax-free to your families. Plus, people don't think about the opportunity of actually leaving money now versus later.
Right.
You know, so people say, well, I want to leave my kid $1 million when I die, all right?
Yeah.
Let's just say it's $100,000 when you die. Well, maybe $10,000 right now could make a big difference in the kid's life versus $100,000 when the kid's 65 or 70. Maybe $100,000 could make a big difference in the kid's life right now versus $1 million when they're 65 or 70.
Right.
So again, the child has more time to do things with that money, you know, to create opportunity, whatever that might be.
It's funny, there's people in the audience that are listening and they're saying, hey, either I have an estate plan, I don't need another one.
Right.
Well, have you reviewed it or updated that lately?
Yeah.
Because it needs to be reviewed and updated. And you also need to double check it to make sure it still works with the goals that you had for your other retirement assets, right?
That's right.
Do they still mesh? Are they communicating? Are they talking together? Are they accomplishing the goals you wanted them to accomplish, right?
Look, absolutely. Look, my wife and I, we just had another child, right? So we had to go back to the drawing board and we had to update our documents. We have another child. And these life events, right? Whether you have another child, another grandchild, lose a spouse, those are times when you really have to think through what that estate planning is going to look like. But again, I think where folks get it wrong is they think about estate planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, living wills, all that stuff. They think about that separately from the retirement planning, and they actually are one and the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about celebrities and retiring and retirement mistakes and estate planning mistakes. Let's talk about somebody that did it right. You brought it up to me earlier.
Oh, George Steinbrenner. Was that George Steinbrenner, right?
Yes, George Steinbrenner, yeah.
He died at the right time. Yeah. What was that? What year was that? 2010, I think it was?
Yeah, it wasn't too long
There
ago.
was no estate tax at that point.
Timed
Federal estate tax.
He timed it perfectly. Some people thought he did it with intention, right?
With intention.
But when we look at what's going on right now from a
Right.
number of standpoints, when we look at the exemption when it comes to passing on
What is it, 22 million
22
right now?
million. And how low has it been?
Yeah, it was as low as 600,000, I think, at one point.
Not that
right?
long ago.
Yeah.
Then where else is it advantageous right now to do planning?
Yeah. Well, you know,
Taxation, right?
Taxation's always advantageous, right? Especially when you can get rid of the IRS from your life for good.
You want to disinherit somebody here. We're talking about estate planning. Disinherit the IRS.
Well, think about it. Most people go to bed every night without doing any tax planning, right? With the IRS being the largest shareholder of their estate.
They're a business partner.
They're a business partner. And any day, they can wake up and they can find out that the IRS has just voted them a larger partner of their accounts. That's unbelievable to me that that's even legal for them to do.
It is a legislative risk. It's a risk that you have no control over.
That's right. One day they can just wake up and say, you know what, we're not taking 30% of your account anymore, we're taking 40%. If you don't think that's possible, it just has to deal with tax rates. If tax rates go up, it just means they become a larger partner in that account.
Right.
Right? So today they could have had a 30% share, tomorrow they could have a 40% share, 50% share, 60% share. What are you going to do when they become the largest shareholder?
Right.
Right. So these are the problems that need to be solved. And this was why our retirement readiness report that we're offering here today on the show is so important, because it's going to go over all of these key areas. It's going to look at your income, your taxes, your investments, your healthcare strategy, your legacy planning strategy, and it's going to tie it all together so that when you plan on leaving this money to your family members, you're going to maximize it not only now, but you're going to maximize it also later. I want you to call right now, 1-888-382-1298, and when they pick up the phone, I want you to tell them that you want your complimentary retirement readiness review. Schedule that today with us. But I want to share one other thing with you. You know, when you think about estate planning in general, right? and you think about just basic documents, most people just think about like a will and a trust, right?
Sure.
I mean, think about what a trust is designed to do. Most people don't realize that their largest asset, probably their IRA, their 401k, can't go into a trust.
Right.
Right? Because if it does, it becomes taxable. So how do you protect that now?
Right.
How do you protect that? And that's the big question that people need answers to, right? And
There's
that's why it's
strategies
all-
today they can use today, though, where they know the rules, right?
This is why, if you got a planner, go see these folks, talk to them, hold their feet to the fire to come up with a plan for you. You deserve the very best for your family.
When it comes to taxes and estate planning, it is not a static state. It
No.
changes, right?
Correct. That's right.
And right now is the best time in history to take advantage of it, right? It's a
Absolutely.
scary thing to look in the eye. Nobody wants to look at their own death.
No, they don't.
And what happens when they're not here.
That's right.
It's hard to imagine a world where you're not in it, right?
It's not. And folks, that's why you want this retirement readiness report. Again, call 1-888-382-1298. Again, it's going to go over your income, your taxes, your investments, your healthcare plan, and your legacy plan. It's going to show you how all of this ties together so you can create a taxable estate and bring it to a tax-free estate. And these are very important things because the last thing we all want is for the IRS to become our largest shareholder. Don't let that happen to you and your family. Don't lose out. Call today, 1-888-382-1298, and get your complimentary retirement readiness review today.
Call 888-382-1298 right now for your own retirement readiness review. Having a clear path to retirement is more than just your savings. This review will include a complete risk analysis on your portfolio, an in-depth fee analysis to determine how much you are and could be paying on those investments, a tax reduction report, and lastly, we'll look at health care and legacy planning for you and your estate. To begin your retirement readiness review, call Brian and his team at 888-382-1298 or use the QR code to schedule your appointment today. Whether your retirement is coming soon or you want to be certain you can stay retired, the Retirement Readiness Review will help guide you through your financial planning needs. Call Brian and his team, 888-382-1298 or use that QR code to schedule your meeting today.